Okay, welcome everyone. Today I have the brains of the operation with me. This is my wife, Jenelle. She's amazing. I'm mainly marketing. She does all the thinking and all the analysis. And there's a lot of magic that goes on inside that head. So say hi.
Hello. Good to be here.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit today about job costing.
I guess starting out, it's the a deeper level of detail to give you understanding of what's going on. So obviously you can look at your profit and loss and you can see where your gross profit is at. And that can give you some insight. But if you want to figure out where you really need to make changes, what's going on, you need to look for trends or where we're hitting, where we're missing, all of those things. At some point, as you grow, you need to get into job costing. So just really helps to give you more that new level of clarity to improve your business.
So for the person that's new to the idea of it, what is job costing?
What is job costing? Okay, so job costing is when you sell a job, then it's all of the expenses, the income, and then all of the expenses that go with that job. Everything's designated to the job, so you can see how it performs. You can compare it to what you priced the job at, your quote, what that was, and are you hitting that quote, or what areas, where are you pricing well, and where are you missing the target?
Okay, so job costing is basically what the job actually costs, so you can compare it to what you think it's going to cost.
Right.
Is that how it works?
Yep.
Okay, so we sell a job. Say we're putting windows in or something, and we sell a job and we give a quote, and we go and do that job. If we don't have job costing, what are the downfalls to that window job?
Sure. So, like I said earlier, it's a deeper level of detail because you can see overall as a company how you're performing, where your gross profit is at. But when you look at each job, it's just giving you more information, so you know job over job what's happening. Is your labor consistently high? Are your materials consistently high? Then do you have a lot of waste? It gives you the ability to dig into it and see where you need to really tweak your numbers. I don't know if I answered your question or not.
Yeah, I think you did. So you said, we were talking earlier, and you said there are 3 things around job costing that you want to make sure we're doing.
Sure.
What are those 3 things?
So first thing is actually tracking job costing by job. Whether there's different software you can use, whether it's in your CRM that you have some of that, or in QuickBooks that you track all of that. But you need to be tracking your costs per your job, again, so you know you can get more clarity and know which specific levers you need to change and adjust to get your profitability up. So first is tracking. It needs to be tracked. And there's levels of that too. Like, if you have different types of jobs that you do, maybe you do roofing, siding, windows, kitchens and baths, all those things. There's different level of detail that you can get into with that too. But tracking is a big thing. So we have to track. Then if you are tracking, then what are you doing with that information next? A lot of companies that I talk to, they'll say, oh, we review the job, like sometime after it's done, we'll review it. Okay, great. But what I see from that is they just look at it and it's like head knowledge of, okay, yeah, we hit our target, we didn't hit our target, we were off by a little, we were off by a lot. And they just kind of maybe identify something. But when you're only looking at it per job, then it tends to not give you the clarity that you need to actually make changes. And so while there's still benefit to it, because you can say, oh, we need to make sure that we account for all these things. If we didn't add a dumpster to the job and we need a dumpster on the job, we can spot that and maybe try to be more aware of it in the future. But really reviewing it needs to be on a bigger scale of where you're looking at the jobs, like I said, per type. If you do different types of jobs, you're putting that information together so that you can start to see the trends. Okay, are we constantly missing on labor? Are we constantly missing on materials? What's happening in that next level of detail?
Yeah.
Or bringing in jobs over a certain time period, whether it's a monthly basis, quarterly, and then over the course of the year, like comparing what's going on. Are we still, like, if we saw in Q1 the labor was high on all the jobs, okay, in Q2 the labor's still high, well, what are we doing? That we can start to see those changes. We can see the trends of what's a continual issue, and then we can also make changes and see, okay, we are getting somewhere because now we're actually hitting what our target is.
So we got track. That's our first thing. Actually track per job, not just general numbers like taxes at the end of the year. So tracking costs per job. Then what do we do with that information?
Then reviewing it, right? Then you have to review it.
Review the information.
And not just it per individual job, but putting that information together and analyzing it. Then, then the next step is to actually make improvements from it. You have to make changes, not just say, don't just take the head knowledge from each job and say, oh, we should have done this, we should have done that. But when you take it to putting the information together, analyzing it as a group, then you start to see where those changes need to be made. And then you can actually make the changes. So your job costing should be not just a timely task, because it does take time. And that's part of why a lot of companies probably aren't implementing it to its fullest extent, because it's time consuming and you have to have someone to dig into the information and make sure things are accurate. But your job costing should be profiting your company. It should be leading to changes. If it's just giving you head knowledge, there's more that can be done from it.
So on our example, our window guy, he did a window job, he bid it. He give us two examples. So one example, he has job costing working right. So he bids the job, he gets the job, he sells it, he goes, he does the job, and job costing is in order. So he's got an accurate representation of what it actually cost him. And he has that information. So then what kind of changes might he make now that he has that information? What is that third step going to look like for the guy that has it?
Sure. Well, I mean, it's different. That's what we're going to find out from it. But some things that we have seen from job costing is, okay, your quote is continually off of what your actual costs are. And sometimes it's a calculator issue when your pricing calculator is not correct. And so you think you're pricing for 40% gross profit, and here your calculator is calculating that the max that you're kind of able to achieve is like 34%. Those are things that we can see in job costing. We can look into, if we see that it's constantly off, we look into that. And adjust the calculator. There's things, where materials maybe are off. And so in our pricing calculator, is our material spend, our pricing correctly? We're in with the economy and things, prices change a lot. And if you're not keeping your pricing calculator up to date, your pricing might be off. So, your prices are constantly over budget, your materials, because you didn't update your calculator. Well, that's something that you look into when you see that the materials are higher than expected. Other things you might see, I know we've had jobs where we look and if a company is using their own employees to install and do the work, what percentage should that labor be at? And, I've worked with companies where I say, when I start job costing, if I see that your labor is over 22%, I know you're going to lose on that job. You're not going to hit your goal, because that's what the trend is showing us. That's what the historical data of job costing is showing us. When that happens, we don't hit. So there's different things, it really just depends. But it's the first step of putting all the information right here for you to look at and compare and start to see the trends and see what's off. And then, it depends.
So if a guy has job costing in place, um, and he can actually analyze that, you said that word analyze. I know a lot of guys look at the information but don't have even the skill set really to analyze. That's actually a skill set, maybe even a gift for you to analyze data and just know it's not really a hunch. It's actually, you know that it's going to be off because you've looked at so much data because job costing's there. So without job costing, that same window guy would have nothing in his corner to help him. He'd just be frustrated because he feels like he bids the job for a good amount, and actually sells it for that amount, doesn't even give a discount. And by the end of the job, he gets his check and expects that he's made, 15 or 20% profit, maybe, uh, gross profit. And then he goes and pays all his bills and does all his stuff. He's working on next week's job, but he still doesn't have any profit at all. Doesn't have any money, and he doesn't know how to find that money because there's nothing telling him where it went. It's almost like a budget,
Yeah.
like a personal budget. Find out where all your money went.
Yeah. So job costing will help you dial in on your gross profit area. There's still more if you're wanting to look at cash flow as a whole. Um, there's more to look at. But the job costing will help you get your gross profit dialed in so that you can bid jobs, you can price jobs, you can have a solid expectation of how this is going to come out. You can have a budget to work off of, right? So, if you're saying, hey, our labor is constantly over, well, okay, what are we doing to make sure that we're hitting that budgeted, amount of labor that we have? If we know, hey, we've got to be at 20% on our labor, then we can start tracking, okay, what's the team that's going to be on this job? You can't put, 2 foreman level guys on here. And if you need them for a time, that's fine, but it does help you to budget out for future jobs. Absolutely. And then it can, or sometimes it's communication. We've seen that, like, when you look at the job costing and you're seeing these things that are constantly missing, the certain areas that we need improvement on, then it's like, okay, dig into that. So does anybody know that our labor is constantly over other than, management that's sitting in the office most of the time? No. Okay, well, we need to communicate to our foreman. Okay, well, our foreman then needs to communicate to the team. We've had, sometimes your foreman is trying to train some of the helpers and the laborers, on the job, and that's great. Like, they need hands-on training, right? But if they know where things are at in the job, we have kind of a budget set up because of that. They can say, oh, we don't have enough time on this job for me to give the extra time to that. We can wait till another job and work on that. So yeah, it can be used kind of like a budget too, depending,
So to show you where there's opportunity to work on stuff.
Right.
There's a lot of, so job costing basically is there's just a lot of data that you could collect and could use it to build the best plan possible going forward, and correct where the issues are, and precision to tell you why you're not making money on a job, whether it's labor, whether it's material, whether it's just plain out pricing, maybe commissions whack with the salesman or whatever.
Right.
So it'll actually, you grab that data, and after each job, you're gaining more and more information to help you set the price and get the profitability that you're after.
Yeah.
That's what it's for.
Yeah. And the whole thing is a process too, because like if you haven't really done much with job costing, you start maybe kind of basic. But as you're continuing to do it, and like I said, as you continue to compare time periods or job types, or as you're going through it, you get more dialed in, and this is the kind of analytical side, and the having patience and the being detail oriented, where you're like, let me dig into this even more. Let me see what's really going on here. Why is that off all the time? And you refine your process. You know, when I first start with a company, the way I'm doing it now might not be exactly the way that I do the job costing or review it or analyze it, you know, in 6 months to a year, because you kind of start somewhere and then you're like, okay, it's helping. It's that fine tuning of getting everything dialed in so that you can, again, be as predictable as possible. You know, it's not remodeling is by no means predictable, right? There's always things changing, always something coming up, always, you know, another change order here, there, whatever. But you want to get to where, you know, you're able to price for a certain gross profit margin and then hit that like consistently. And that's what that helps us to do. So
you can be confident in once it's working in the way it should be, you can be confident in your pricing and in your system and in your whole operation, and you can set your goal for gross profit at 15-20%.
Your gross profit would be higher. Yeah.
40%. Help me. And then, so you're trying to get 15 or 20 net.
Yeah.
Right. So you can set your pricing, set your goals, and set your profitability where you need so that your company can hit the goals it's after.
Sure. So yeah, job costing is going to help you with that, getting that gross profit where you want it to be. And then, you know, obviously you still have to look at all of your overhead expenses, your salary, payroll, your marketing and overhead, and get your net profit dialed in, and then look at cash flow. So there's a lot to it, but the job costing helps really dial in your gross profitability.
Awesome. All right. Well, we need to give Miss Jenelle a round of applause. This is not her forte. She loves to be behind the computer running numbers back and forth. I said, I need to have you in front of the camera and tell some people about this stuff. So, woo! All right. Thank you all so much. Dave from Devine Strategy Group, Jenelle from Devine Strategy Group, and she's the brains. You need her on your team. Thank y'all.
Thanks.
What are we talking about today?
Job costing.
Job costing.
That's not good.
That's a good outtake already. You got to put the outtake.